Hey everyone, I am back with another video. This is another book haul. It feels pretty soon from the last book haul that I did, but let's just say I got my tax returned and I wanted to spend a tiny bit of it on books, so let's go. Alright, so for the first few books, they're all by the same author. This is an author that I read towards the end of last year, and I really liked his short story collection. It was very eerie, very grotesque, very dark, and I like all those things, so I wanted to pick up some more of his books, and that is Harlan Ellison. There is a publishing company, I don't know which one, who has created this series called the Harlan Ellison Collection, and it's basically just a bunch of different collections of his short stories. And I think there may be some novellas within these, but I'm not quite sure. But I got 4 of them. They all have the same cover, so just be on the lookout for that. But the first one is Pain God and Other Delusions. The second one is The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. The next one is Strange Wine. And finally, Deathbird Stories. The collection that I read last year, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, was amazing, and I think that's one of his most famous short stories, so I'm really looking forward to seeing more of his work, and I'm sure I'll like it. The next book comes from my want to read a little bit more diversely this year. I wanted to reach out to authors of different countries and the literature there and kind of see what I could read. So in that vein, I got The Tower and Other Stories by Yanis Ezerins. There are a lot of, I don't know if you can see this, but there are a lot of characters that I just have absolutely no idea how to pronounce. This is a Latvian author. I don't think I've ever read a Latvian author in my life, but I was recommended this by a Latvian friend of mine, and so I'm looking forward to reading it. Apparently he's a very famous author, and hopefully a good place to start. I think this collection was written in the 40s or 50s maybe, so a little bit dated, but if I like this, maybe I can try to find some more recent authors. The next book I got is Nobody Is Ever Missing by Catherine Lacey. This is a book about a woman named Illyria who decides to get on a flight to New Zealand and leave her, I think, fiance or maybe husband, her husband, and just her whole life behind, and goes to New Zealand. And I think everyone's had that fantasy before where you just kind of pick up and leave everything and don't really tell anyone. I hope everyone else has had that fantasy before. And so I'm excited to see and read a story of someone who actually followed through with something like that, and if it was a good idea or not. The next book I got is Postcards from the Edge by Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher, also known as Princess Leia, is a actress, but she also is a writer. She wrote a memoir called Wishful Drinking. I think it was also a play as well. I listened to the audiobook of that a couple of years ago, and I really liked it a lot. This actually is a novel, so it's fiction, but it's kind of in the same vein of what she kind of knows, right? And that's Hollywood, and that's acting, and that's drugs and alcohol, and that kind of thing. And so it's about this woman who kind of gets sucked up into the Hollywood lifestyle and what happens to her at the edge. In my January TBR, I mentioned an Israeli author named Etgar Keret and his collection, The Girl on the Fridge, which I have somewhere back here. Here it is. And I loved it. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I think maybe 4 stars. And I wanted to read more of his short story collections. He's got a few, so I picked up 2 more. The first one is Nimrod Flip Out, and I like that cover a lot. It's another dark one. And then the last one is The Bus Driver Who Wanted to Be God. This one sounds really great as well. It's another collection that's very, very short stories. It looks like these are also translated by different translators, which will be interesting to see. I think the last collection was mostly translated by 1 or 2, and so seeing how his voice changes, or hopefully how it doesn't change, should be pretty great. The next book is by a Japanese author. It is in translation, and this is Paprika by Yasutaka Tsutsui. And he's apparently a famous science fiction author in Japan, in Japanese literature. I've never read him before, but this book is about a dream invading machine that's been stolen from this institute, and there is a detective who's, I guess she's like a dream detective. I don't think she's actually a detective in real life. She's a psychotherapist in real life, but her alter ego is a dream detective named Paprika, and it's up to her to kind of solve this mystery. I guess this was turned into an anime at some point. I have not watched that, but if I like the book, I might go ahead and take a look at that. The next two books are actually in Japanese. If you watched my resolutions video, you know that I want to read at least 5 books in Japanese. Haven't read any so far, but it's only February, so I hope I'm not too behind. But I wanted to pick up a couple of books that looked interesting. So both of these books are by the same author. Her name is Akiyoshi Rikako. And the first one is Ankoku Joshi, and that means something like Darkness Girls. There's probably a better title out there, but I don't think this has been translated into English yet. I couldn't really tell you what it's about yet. Something about darkness and girls, but you can tell by the school uniform that it's probably about middle schoolers or high schoolers. The next one is by the same author, like I said, and that's Hokago ni Shisha wa Modoru, and that means like after class, after school, the dead return, basically. And I think from what I read on here, there is a boy who was killed, and he gets kind of reincarnated into a different body, and in the same classroom or maybe in the same school, there is his murderer, or his original body's murderer, and so it's up to him to kind of figure out who it is, I think. It's going to take me a long time. If you want to see what Japanese books look like, they look something like this, and then you would read them this way, at least for this style. But I know I'm going to need a dictionary, I know I'm going to need a lot of time, so I will try to tackle those sooner than later, so I'm not trying to read a bunch at the end of the year. The next book is actually for a book club that I'm in at work. So I have a full-time job, and I've helped create this book club with with a bunch of coworkers, and it's a lot of fun. And last time we read American Gods, that's why I read that last month. And this time we are reading this book called Money, A Suicide Note by Martin Amis. And this is about I think it's a London like commercial executive or something like that, who's in New York to film a feature film, record a feature film basically, and about his time and spending money and his pursuit of pleasure basically. It seems pretty tough. I've looked around and I've read a little bit of the prose, and it's pretty intense. I think I'm going to have to be concentrating a lot while I'm reading it, so it's going to be a challenge, but one I'm looking forward to. I really like the cover, very like Sailor Jerry tattoo style. Looks quite cool. The next book I got is Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler. I just finished, probably a few days ago, I just finished Parable of the Sower, and I gave it 5 stars. Little spoiler alert for my February wrap-up, because it was amazing, and I immediately wanted to pick up the sequel. I'm going to try to read it this month, while it's still Read Soul Lit Month and Black History Month. So, because if you didn't know, Octavia E. Butler is a black female science fiction author, which is too rare, I think. So, gonna be tackling this next once I finish the book I'm reading, probably. The next 4 books are all from the same publishing house. That's Melville House Publishing. They have this subscription service called Art of the Novella, where each month you pay a pretty reasonable fee of like $13 or something like that, and they send you 2 novellas. The books are typically by pretty famous authors, so there's Fitzgerald, there's Charlotte Perkins, I think The Yellow Wallpaper. Ooh, I hope that's by her. I might have gotten that wrong. But this month, actually this is for the past couple of months, December and January, these 4 books that I have. One thing I will say is it's a really great service, but I've had a bit of trouble getting my books on time. So if you subscribe to this service, which I recommend everyone should. At least everyone who likes novellas definitely should. But just know that you might have some trouble getting your books from time to time. If you email them and let them know, they're more than happy to send it right out to you, and that usually solves the problem. So Melville Publishing House, I like you a lot. Melville House Publishing, sorry, I like you a lot. But please send me my books on time. The first book is Enchanted Wanderer by Nikolai Letskov. A lot of the books in this series are by Russian authors. I wonder if there's like a big novella, short story presence in Russia. If someone knows, please let me know. The next one is The Distracted Preacher by Thomas Hardy. Alexander's Bridge by Willa Cather, I don't know. And The Horla by Guy de Maupassant. So, looking forward to reading those. Keep saying that, but it's true. The next books are actually all comic books. I'll kind of go through them pretty quickly because I think this is going to be quite a long video as it is. But they're all Marvel comics. They're all mostly X-Men comics because recently I've been getting pretty into those comics again. I think I mentioned this before, but the last big X-Men run that I read was Grant Morrison's. And that's from a while ago now. So trying to pick up where it's left off in some cases and also just read some more. So the first one is the Dark Phoenix Saga by X-Men. This follows Jean Grey's possession by the Dark Phoenix entity. I don't think that's going to spoil anything. Sorry if you didn't know that from the movies and basically any Marvel comic that has to do with the X-Men that you've read recently. The next one is Days of Future Past. I actually have not watched the movie yet, so I don't really know what this is about, other than there's Wolverine looking cool on the cover, and apparently it's a pretty important one. I have Avengers vs. X-Men Consequences. This takes place right after Avengers vs. X-Men. It's pretty short. I actually already read this, but it's about what happens right after the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, which is basically the Phoenix entity comes to Earth again, and the X-Men want to protect the girl that it's probably going to possess, and the Avengers want to kill the girl that it's probably going to possess. So it's the struggle there, because that's obviously a very big disconnect between the two teams. A few months ago, I read one of the most recent runs of X-Men. If you don't know, the newest X-Men run that's happening right now is actually an all-female team, led by Storm, and the characters the team kind of rotates a little bit, at least so far. But I read the first trade paperback bind-up of those a couple months ago. So I picked up Muertas. This is the second trade paperback of the current run. I think this collects some issues from 2013 or maybe 2014. And then I have Bloodline as well. This collects some pretty recent comics. They're both two separate story arcs, and I actually already read these two and I liked them a lot. So one issue that I have with X-Men comics is that I always feel like I don't know the characters and I don't know what's happening, and then I will get on Wikipedia and I will look up the character and read all about them and see, you know, who they fight with normally, who their enemy is normally, and then I'll want to read more comics that kind of talk about that character. And this is what happened this time as well. I saw a character that sounded really interesting from the X-Men comics, and so I wanted to pick up the series that she was in, and that is The Runaways. This is about some mutants whose parents are supervillains, but they don't want to be supervillains, and so they run away and become not supervillains, and kind of what ensues after that. So this is the complete collection, volume 1. As you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than a regular trade paperback. And then I also got the complete collection, volume 2, hoping that I like the first one. So I think I will. Anyway, that's everything that I got this time. It's kind of a lot. I don't think I'll be getting anything again for a while. So, well, we'll see. Hopefully I won't, because I have quite a big list of books that I need to read before that. That's everything. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.